Before we get started, we're going to be recording this meeting for additional attendees that said that they would like to have the information since not able to join us. So as promised, thank you so much for being part of our launch day today with the 4950. We appreciate your time on this webinar. We're trying to focus into two separate parts. One, where we're going to give an overview presentation. And then second, we're going to get into any questions that you have on a technical basis. I am excited to announce with this particular product, with the 4950, today we are launching. We are certified on all the major carriers. We have gone through 6 months of well testing this product, so it's available today to ship. And also we have a 60-day free sample policy so that you can place samples orders today. With that being said, I would like to turn the presentation over to our CEO, Rob Martin, wearing an enchanting Suntech mask there. Well, Rob, do you want to give the people a little bit of overview today?
Let's get Suntech unmasked here now. We've got the dream team, and we got your back in launching into some asset trackers that Suntech's been working on for quite a while. As you're probably aware, Suntech's been a market leader in the Latin America market for many years, and a few years ago has been taking the U.S. market and Canadian market by storm. So I'm pictured here as some of our U.S. team members. We've actually been very happy to say we've grown during 2020 and into 21, which is an amazing thing. I can only say it's because we've got demand from great customers out there that have been partnering with us to test products over these last couple of years and take them to market. After this slide, we've actually added 4 new people to our team. I'm in the office today, unmasked. We're all double vaccinated and feeling good about the future. In kind of the growth of Suntech, during the end of 2020, we surpassed over 4 million devices sold worldwide. It's quite a milestone for Suntech, and we're clipping along at a pace. We should be at about 1 million devices added the end of this year as well. I'm at our office here, which is in Vista, California. We've got 2 office suites here. We're kind of the epicenter for telematics operations, hardware, very close to a lot of the other companies that are involved in this sort of a thing. And Suntech's proud to have set up a headquarters here so we can provide technical support, assistance, warehousing right locally here within the US. And we're happy to be your hardware provider of choice. So right for today, the purpose of this webinar is to shed some light on our new series of asset trackers that are different battery styles and can kind of come out of the darkness and add some extra support into your platforms that you're working on. So I'm going to turn the time over to Steve Vorres, who's our Vice President for Engineering and Customer Support. He can talk to you about more of the technical details, and we're going to get into some question and answers. So our whole team's here to help you answer questions about this. Steve, I want you to kind of get into the nitty gritty here. Happy to see you working at the home office still, but that's awesome. Tell us a little bit about Suntech's new solar asset trackers.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I'm very excited. This is a great new product. It's been in development for over a year, but in the last 6 months, we've been shipping devices to a few select customers and testing this device out in the field. So what I'm going to talk about today is our very unique solar-powered 4950 GPS asset tracker. So this is the device here. It's very small, as you can see. It's a nice gray, dark gray box. It's waterproof. It's got some LEDs that you can just barely see through the screen here. But most importantly, it's got a very large, very efficient solar panel on it. And so I'm going to talk about that in a little more detail today in the next few slides. But briefly, what you've got is a self-contained, waterproof asset tracker. It works on Cat M1, the 4G network. And with this device, you can put it out in the sun and you never, ever have to recharge batteries again. So for the life of this device, typically about 10 years. You should be able to leave this in strong sunlight, and it will capture enough sun, depending on the angle of the sun hitting the panel. And in doing that, you'll gather between 1 and 9 reports for every hour of sunlight. And I'll talk about that in a little more detail. Next slide, Jim. So what we've got the main unit here, which is defined as our ST4950. The ST4950, as shown in this photograph here, is a 5.2 amp hour battery pack inside of a solar powered asset tracker. It's fairly small, as you can see. It fits in my hand. It's fairly small. It's very lightweight, about 300 grams, which is about 3/4 of a pound. And it's designed in its cross section here so that it can fit into the castellations or the ridges of a lot of shipping containers. It's also something that can be easily flush mount to a shipping container or a semi-con truck. We also sell a cradle, and I'll talk about this cradle in a few minutes, but this cradle allows you to snap it together. You can snap this together, and the back of the cradle has 4 ultra strong neodymium magnets, which once you attach it to an iron surface, it's really pretty tough to remove. You practically need to pry it off with a screwdriver. Okay, so what are the key features? Why do you want to buy this? Well, the number one reason you really want to buy this is it cuts the tether of the power supply. You're not constantly having to worry about recharging the batteries. If you've got a device that's way out in a remote region, way out in the field, you don't want to have to be sending guys out to recharge or swap out the batteries every year. This device has a built-in battery recharger. So what are we doing? We've got a network LTE, so that's Cat M1. It also supports narrowband IoT. So that means that it can communicate over the very efficient, very cost-efficient, and very power-efficient networks that are available. So this is supported by AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Bell, and the former Sprint network, which is now owned by T-Mobile. We're also going to be adding some other networks, probably US Cellular, very shortly. It's a very, very, very low power consuming device. So when this device goes to sleep, it draws virtually no power in the microamp range. When it's lit up by sunlight, when it's angled and the sun is hitting it directly, we get an amazing 40 milliamps per hour of solar power. And that gives you the ability to transmit additional reports about 9 times per hour, just using sunlight. The device has a low battery alert, so if it is in the shade or in the dark or accidentally mounted upside down, it's going to continue transmitting for a shorter period of time, but it will let you know that the battery is getting low. We've also come up with a very novel capability that allows us to throttle down the reporting interval when the battery gets really, really low. So if you had this device up in Canada and it's covered with snow, or it's parked in a warehouse and somebody forgot to recharge it and it's in the shade all the time, the reporting interval can go from, let's say, once every hour to once every 2 hours to once every 4 hours. And it can continue to report just more slowly. Yes, ambient charging. I saw the question. Yes, you can use ambient light to recharge it. The reality is ambient light is probably about 1/8 as strong as direct sunlight. So with ambient light, you're only going to get about 1 report per hour for a reporting interval, as compared to about 9 reports per hour based on direct sunlight.
Hey, Steve, if we can just stop there, because we do have a couple questions from Chad.
Right.
Chad, I did, if you have any additional questions, if you can just come off of mute. I know you had a question about the container chassis cradle.
Yes. Yep. So Chad, here's the container chassis cradle. And this is a magnetic mount chassis cradle. And the 4950 snaps into that device. Chad, did you have any questions?
In terms of mounting it on a intermodal chassis, like what you might see for San Francisco, you know, so the container comes off, now you're off the chassis. The ambient light and this looks like you have a 7-way adapter. You know, we just look at that as a tethered option and a solar option, and then with ambient charging, what do you perceive the performance to be?
What do I perceive the what to be?
Perceive the performance to be, and I'll get a little bit more granular because the location for it won't be optimal.
Yeah. So
Steve, Steve, can you repeat the question by chance?
Yeah. So the question is, what is the optimal configuration to mount this device so that it gathers the most amount of energy from the external light source? So in my room, I've got an overhead light, and I'm actually getting light from the light bulb in the room. I'm getting energy to charge this device, and I get about 1 report per hour just based on indoor room lighting. When I'm outdoors in San Diego sun, I get a beautiful 9 reports per hour throughout the day of San Diego sun. We don't change the laws of physics. So it really depends on the physics of how much light energy hits the panel and the actual angle of incidence of the panel to the solar beam that's hitting the solar panel. So if you're at the equator, you would want this device laying flat. If you're in San Diego and the sun, we're at a latitude of about 33 degrees, you want to angle this device so that it is angled to gather the most sun at noontime. If you're up in Chicago or Boston, the angle increases. And then if you're up in Canada, the angle increases even more. So I think to answer your question, the reality is people mount this at their most convenient angle and most convenient location. But if you want to gather the most energy, then you would want to mount it on a bracket where you could swivel it. So if you're on a telephone pole or flagpole, you'd want to mount it so it's on a bracket and it can be swiveled to capture the greatest amount of sunlight.
That's a really good question, Chad. Chad, did we answer your question, or is there any follow-up on that one?
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. You're welcome. And Chad, we've also created a spreadsheet and a number of different tables that will enable us to work with you and calculate the actual hours of sun versus reports. So we can work with you. Our field applications engineers can work with you on that also. All right, but great question. And really, that is probably the #1 question about this kind of device is, what is your battery life? So this device can be running for about 3 years under normal usage with a 5.2 amp hour battery, and that's 3 years at 1 or 2 pings per day. We've got a larger battery available, a 7.8 amp hour battery, and that'll give you 4 years of battery power. That's without sunlight. Now, when you add sunlight to that, you obviously get many more reports per day. Later this year, we're going to release a 10 amp hour battery, and that should give up to 5 years of battery life on this rechargeable battery. This device is very useful. It also has, in addition to its low battery alert, it has a 3-axis accelerometer. An accelerometer measures g-forces in the x, the y, and the z axis. So if this is mounted on a trailer or a vehicle and it's driving along and you get an impact, that impact will be reported to the accelerometer, and that can be transmitted up to the cloud. The device has a very, very sensitive GPS receiver. So the GPS receiver in this device, it's right under the front panel here. The GPS receiver can receive signals from the American GPS satellites or the European or the Russian GPS satellites, or a combination of those. So you get a very good solid GPS reporting from that. We typically see better than 10 feet of accuracy on this device. The device is also enabled to work with assisted GPS. And assisted GPS takes into account any inaccuracies in the satellite up in the sky, and it broadcasts that over the cellular network or over the satellite network, and that gives you a better accuracy and a more repeatable coordinate for the location of this device. The device is firmware upgradable over the air. So let's say you buy these devices, you install them, and you're having them report once every hour. And then your customer says, well, I'd really like to have a report once every 45 minutes. Yes, we can just do a firmware over the air upgrade or a profile over the air upgrade. And we can, just using cellular data, very quickly, we can upgrade these devices. The container is waterproof. So it's got gaskets inside, and it is fully IP67 rated. Well, what is IP67? Some of you have probably heard that phrase. IP67 means that I can drop this and fully submerge it in 3 feet of water and leave it there for a half hour. I can go out to lunch and come back and pull it out of 3 feet of water, open the case up, and it's bone dry inside. So it's designed to be very rugged and waterproof. We've got an external power connector here. Well, why do you want an external power connector if you've got a solar panel? Good question. Well, the answer is you might mount it on the back of a trailer, or you might mount it on the back of a vehicle. And you might say, well, normally I want to report once every minute or once every 5 minutes. Well, that's really going to drain your solar powered charger. So we sell a adapter cable, and the adapter cable screws into this threaded waterproof connector here. And in doing so, you can connect this up to the taillights or headlights or turn signals or blinkers of a truck or a trailer, or any 12-volt power source, actually any power source between 8 volts and 33 volts. You can plug that in, and then you get much more power coming into that battery, and then you can report more frequently. So again, when you're under solar power only, you have to be fairly conservative about how many reports you want to send to the cloud versus how much sunlight you get on the panels. And that's true of all vendors, all manufacturers, solar powered devices. We just have a very efficient solar panel, a very low power consumption device, and a very well thought out scenario. So this device also detects when it's plugged in to power. We've got circuitry inside that detects when it's charging, when it's discharging, and we can report that information up to the cloud. The device comes with AES 128 encryption available. So AES is Advanced Encryption Software 128. That's a military grade software, which is considered virtually unhackable. There will be people that will argue that, but the military and the federal government accepts this level of encryption for providing sensitive data to be transmitted over this device. The device is fully programmable, so there's software inside and memory inside, which can be programmed, again, over the air. You can program this device via our free of charge SyncTrack software, and that makes it very, very easy to program it. SyncTrack is much easier to use as a programming software than some other vendors. Some other vendors might use something called PegScript, which is rather painful to learn, and that's a command line language. SyncTrack is really just filling in the boxes with the number of minutes or hours that you want different intervals to be programmed at. So we provide optional cables for external power supplies. We provide, or we sell wall warts that enable you to plug it into a wall wart adapter. We provide a micro USB cable that enables you to program the device via SyncTrack. And we've got this really cute chess pawn that allows you to play magnetic chess. But seriously, it's a neodymium magnet, and this magnet can be run over the front surface of the 4950, and that's how we turn it on and turn it off. So to avoid a leaky waterproof switch, instead we've got a magnet, and the magnet triggers a Hall effect sensor inside the device, and that enables you to turn on the device and turn off the device. Chad, I think you had a question. Let's see.
Yep, I am muted, Chad. So Chad, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. So speaking specific trailer, when the tractor comes back and the kingpin drops and locks, it's going to create a great amount of force. With respect to the impact accelerometer, at what G-force would the system say, oh, we have a hook on a trailer? And then
yes.
But
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question Chad's asking is the internal 3-axis accelerometer, what G-forces can it detect? And the answer is it'll detect from 0 up to 8 Gs on this device. So 0 is just standing still. 1 G means it's just been dropped at 32 feet per second. That's 1 G. 8 Gs means it's a collision that's probably not survivable by humans. So that would be a fatal collision. A trailer and tractor connection doing a kingpin drop, that might be 1 to 2 Gs, and it's fully programmable. So with a little bit of experimenting on the truck and trailer, you can program that, and you might try 1.5 and decide to go up to 1.7 or 1.9 G. But that's fully programmable with this device, and you can program that over the air.
thank you.
I'm sorry?
I answered the question. Thank you.
All right,
The question was answered, Steve. Thank you.
great, thanks. Yeah, good question. All right, so again, the device is very rugged. It's designed to meet the SAE J1455 compliance. That's the Society of Automotive Engineers compliance level for trucks and cars. So it's very rugged, and it meets all the requirements for shock and vibration when it's going over the road. Again, we offer 3 different battery flavors, small, medium, and large batteries, which give you longer and longer battery life. And let's go back to that previous slide for a minute. And then we offer accessories. I just want to briefly go over on the lower left. This is our very attractive mounting cradle with very strong magnets. You can also buy the cradle without the magnets. And without the magnets, you can then use screws or nails or epoxy to attach this cradle to any non-magnetic surface. We then offer a cable that connects the device to a 9-volt wall wart adapter. We offer the standard 12-volt wall adapter. We also offer USB cables, and that's a standard micro USB used for programming the device. And we sell a installer's kit, and the installer's kit includes everything shown except for the cradles, and that gives you a quick start guide and all the wires and cables that you might need for a variety of installation scenarios. And of course, the one in the lower right corner is the magnetic cradle. Let's go to the next slide if we don't have any questions.
Steve, a couple questions I've had from customers as well.
All right.
I think it would be nice to be able to demonstrate, since the on-off switch is waterproof, where you would be able to apply the magnet to the device to do that.
Yep.
And also the 12-volt power cable, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it allows you to be able to see when the power cable is connected or not. Is that correct? Or
Yes. Yes. Excellent question. This is our device. We trademarked the name for this called Power Pawn. Clever name because it looks like a chess piece. The Power Pawn, I don't think it's going to show up on my camera, but there's an LED right here. And when you swipe the device, when you swipe the magnet over it, the LED lights up and it goes from red to blue, indicating that the device is turned on or turned off. So it's merely a sliding over and holding the magnet in front of the device. Some people ask, will it accidentally get triggered? And the answer is no. This is a very strong magnet inside the Power Pawn. So you do need a very, very strong intentional magnetic field to turn this device on or off. But the beauty of it is it keeps the device waterproof. And then the 12-volt cable that you ask about, it has, let's see if you can see that in my screen. It has a threaded connector, and these two mate together, and then they can be screwed together. And you get a nice waterproof connector going in there. All right.
Steve, just also on that cable, does the device tell the difference between battery power and 12-volt power in the cable?
Yes.
And what type of applications would you use that for?
Yes. So lots of applications might be monitoring a trailer that gets placed in a yard, and the trailer might be only used at Christmas, Halloween, Easter, 4th of July, just something that's only used for holidays perhaps. So during that, during the rest of the year, you might run the device on solar power. And then when the device gets driven, the trailer gets hooked up to the tractor and it gets driven around. Well, then you've got 12 volts available coming into the connector. So you might want 12 volts to be connected during the holiday season when you're driving the trailer around. And then you might do a report once every minute, once every 5 minutes. But the rest of the year, when it's just parked in the trailer yard, you don't have an active 12-volt battery driving this thing. And so then you're just running it off of sunlight. The device does have intelligence inside of it to determine whether it's getting power from the 12-volt trailer. and it sends that information up to the cloud. So you can measure the power coming in and the actual battery voltage on your 12-volt lead acid or 24-volt lead acid batteries. So this device can also let you know that your trailer lead acid battery is getting low.
So Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. So the data is available. So on the platform, if it's integrated, you'll be able to see if the 12 volts to the truck is hooked up, or if it's running on the battery itself. Is that correct? And can you give a little more color on that?
Yes. So our software platform that broadcasts data up to the cloud has a field in it, and the field in it says, is the device running on its internal lithium-ion battery? And what is the voltage of that lithium-ion battery? And what percentage of charge is left in the device? That's the normal operating scenario for this. The additional operating scenario is you get this device plugged into the cable, and then this cable is plugged into your 12 volts on your truck. And the software will then broadcast up to the cloud saying, I am now also plugged into an external 12-volt source, and the 12-volt source is at 12.75 volts. So my battery is fully charged and everything's running well. And maybe a month down the road, it might say my battery is now at 11.1 volts. And so you might want to recharge the lead acid battery. So that information is broadcast up to the cloud with each message that this broadcasts up to the cloud. So when we broadcast a GPS message, we're also broadcasting the internal battery voltage and the external battery voltage.
Great. Thank you, Steve, for that clarification. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I think the next one, because we want to get to any questions, is the available options, Steve.
Yep. Great question. So this device was designed to be offered in a couple of different flavors. One flavor is the lowest cost option, which has a 5.2 amp hour battery. So this device has a very rugged lithium-ion battery pack. The batteries inside are the lithium-ion 18650 lithium-ion rechargeable batteries. These are steel-cased batteries, same batteries that are used in the Tesla electric car, the same batteries used in vape or other consumer products, laptop computers. So it's a very rugged, very cost-effective battery. And we offer that as a 3-year estimated battery life. We also offer an option where you can get a much larger battery, and that's a 7.8 amp hour battery pack. So that's 7.8 amp hours or 7,800 milliamp hours if you like working in milliamps rather than amp hours. And finally, later this year, we're offering a 10 amp hour battery pack. And the 10 amp hour battery pack gives you about twice the amp hour capacity that the standard device does. Each of these battery packs, of course, are larger and more expensive. So that's a menu, a la carte menu that you can choose when you purchase the device. And the device mounts in the cradle as also shown on the slide here. So what else are we offering? Suntech is a custom telematics designer and a custom telematics manufacturer. So we build a wide variety of products. We listen to our customers, and when our customer says, hey, Steve, I need something a little bit modified to what your standard product is, we listen, we think about it, and then we say, well, if you're going to buy it in volume, we can discuss modifying our device a little bit and maybe add some different software or a different cable or add a different label to the device or do some minor customization. So we have a number of customization features that we're going to add to these devices. This device has been out in the wild for about 6 months. So with some limited test cases, we've shipped a few hundred of these devices out in the field. We've gotten good feedback from the field that this device was very well accepted. The end customers were thrilled with the solar power capability of this, with the rechargeableness of this, with the ruggedness of this. It's a very well received device. But somebody came along and said, hey, Steve, I don't need solar panel. I'm going to mount this inside in a shady area. I don't need this expensive solar panel. And I said, all right, tell me what you need. They told me. And so we came out with a similar device where we've removed the solar panel. We've removed the cost of the solar panel. And so we're going to sell that, releasing that probably at the end of the month. And that's the 4950 DS device. So DS is the acronym for deleted solar. So it's the same device, comes with similar battery options, probably 7.8 amp hour battery. And then also in July, we're going to be releasing the 4910, which we released last year. That device has a 10-year battery, a non-rechargeable battery in it. And we're adding to that Bluetooth and humidity and light and temperature sensors. So that's an amazing device. And with the addition of Bluetooth and an internal water, humidity, light, humidity, temperature sensor, gives you a lot of versatility for a lot of applications. Then later in the summer, probably the end of July, we will be releasing this 4950 device with added Bluetooth also. So you'll be able to get the same humidity, light, temperature sensors in this device. So that's roughly what our roadmap looks like. Any questions on the roadmap?
Thanks, Steve. I think we want to get into a Q&A session, but as you stated here, we also have all certifications with our launch date. So not only is it well tested and available, the devices are currently certified on Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Bell.
Yep.
And as always with all Suntech products, we're here to make it quite easy for you for evaluations. So we have a free 60-day evaluation on any of our products. As you know, Suntech is a hardware-only provider, but we do have test sims available and test platforms for you to be able to take advantage of. And we're ready to ship with our samples as well. I thank you, Steve, for the presentation, but I think I'd like to get a little bit more Q&A now.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Manuel Morales, I know that you're out there, and you also have, and your team have a lot of ideas on channels to be able to bring this product to. I'm sorry for calling you just on the spot there, Manuel, but can you just talk about, Jim? Can you talk about just the general channels that you think that this would be really applicable to, or any use cases?
Yes, definitely. We see large OEM customers that you're very familiar with, right? That we have been working together. That might be of a target of interest for these new products, specifically the 4950 that we're discussing. But actually, I have a quick question, if you don't mind, Jim.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, reviewing this 4950 DS that Steve just presented, what would be the major, let's say, difference or benefits vis-a-vis the 4910? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the device as it is has a rechargeable battery in it. So the 4950 DS will still have a rechargeable battery, and that would only be recharged via the 12-volt power cable. So this would be very useful for mounting it inside a semi-truck trailer, inside an 18-wheeler trailer, or inside any vehicle. You'd mount this inside where you're not planning on getting sunlight. And you would connect the power cable up to the taillights or any 12-volt source. And with an hour or so of power plugged in, you're going to get lots of reporting time capabilities.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Mhm. The 4910 device, on the other hand, that's designed to be a install and forget device. You install it, you've got 10 years of batteries, so you never need to really worry about them, about recharging them.
Right, right. And coming back to Jim's question, we definitely see a different use case where, of course, both options will be definitely very beneficial. As you know, my specific company, we work along with Suntech in terms of customizing some of these solutions, to end customers. So it's very beneficial to have all these alternatives in place, Steve. So again, I appreciate all the information you're sharing today.
All right, very good. We enjoy working with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Manuel. We really appreciate it. I think we had Chad had an additional question. Chad, let me try to unmute you here.
Yep.
Let's see. So does the report throttling require new firmware? And if so, when available? May want to take this offline, but we're open to that too, Steve. Can you give some color on that?
Yeah, so Chad's got an excellent question. We added a new feature just a couple of weeks ago to this device, where if the battery starts to get very low, so if the battery gets down to its last 20% of internal charge, do you want to let the device just die in the field and then maybe it gets lost, or do you want to figure out a way to conserve it? So what we've come up with is a scenario that's in firmware that will slow down the reporting. So maybe you were reporting once every hour. When the battery gets down below 20%, we've got some optional software feature that allows you to double or quadruple the reporting interval, slowing it down and conserving the battery life. So maybe you only had 1 week of battery life left. You could quadruple that and make it 1 month of battery life just by slowing down the intervals. That firmware should be available at the end of June, Chad. And so if you're interested, we can install that firmware in your device and let you test it out.
In terms of firmware, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the solar devices. What is Suntech's best practice? Is the best practice push out small patch fixes or wait for larger loads?
Your audio was garbled. I was struggling to hear. Could you repeat that, please?
The question was, in terms of how Suntech pushes out firmware, is the best practice to do smaller patches, or let's just say bundle 3 to 5 patch fixes or new features you may have? What's the methodology?
Yeah. Usually what we do is
Steve, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, Steve?
Yeah. So Chad was asking, what's Suntech's best practices for firmware updates? Do we prefer to do installs in multiple levels, like do 3 or 4 small patches, or do we do 1 full patch? And our preference is to do 1 full patch. Our firmware updates are actually very small. The firmware is typically about 10 kilobits. So it's a pretty small firmware update that gets sent out over the air. And we can usually do that all in 1 quick session. It usually takes a minute or 2 when it gets transmitted. And we usually do it all at once, as opposed to multiple small patches. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much. It does.
All right, great.
So thank you, Steve. I think that's a pretty good overview. As mentioned, we're always here to be able to support your custom needs. I'm just going to open up to everyone. If anybody has any additional questions, please feel free to speak up now or raise your hand. But I think we covered them pretty well. Chad, is there any additional questions that you have by chance?
None at the current moment. I'm sure I'll have a million in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, we're here to support, and personally reach out to myself, Steve, or Rob, as always, and we'll be able to get you an answer as soon as possible. With that being said, it looks like we got a couple more. We got Bill, Carolyn, and Gary. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I'll try to unmute you as well. But it doesn't look like we have any additional questions. So I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for attending this. Really quick there, Rob, I know that you've still been listening through this. Any additional feedback that you'd like to give?
Yes, Jim, how can I purchase some of these for use in my applications?
You sure can. Well, we're ready to testing, and we've been testing for almost 6 months, as Steve said. So we're launch ready. So we have all of these items available in our California warehouse. You can be able to order them today for a 60-day free evaluation testing. And from there, we also do have stock supplies. So we're ready and available to be able to make your shipments today. So if any of you do want to have a demo, I'm going to be reaching out to everyone directly after this call. Feel free to get in contact with sales at Suntech US or any of us directly. With that being said, Rob, do you have anything else in parting?
Yeah, please go. We'll be posting this to our YouTube channel and on LinkedIn. And so go ahead, and if you get a chance, please like and share on the various social media and spread the good word about Suntech. We appreciate your time today, everyone.
Okay, so last call. If any additional questions, please let me know. And we do appreciate your time. As Rob mentioned, this will be posted to YouTube a little bit later today. And as always, feel free to contact us at suntechus.com. Thank you for attending this call, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.